What's up, everybody? I'm here with my boy Kevin from Traditions Lincoln Park. Today, we're just going to be talking about how effective communication has impacted his business, his career, and his life overall. So let's get straight to it.
My name's Kevin. I've been cutting hair for 10 plus years. I've owned this shop for about 4, give or take. Love cutting hair. Love the people who I've met while cutting hair. And yeah.
The first question I have for you is that within your business, how has effective communication elevated your career as well as your network?
One of the things that I could share when it comes to things that communication helped me with my career is the way I had to sell my, not only the haircut, but the experience with my conversation. So that's like a skill that you flex and you work on as your career goes on, and it helps you maintain clientele consistently, and then it helps you network with them as well, you know, because all types of people sit in your chair.
Now, for my second question, what are some different ways to put yourself out there and become not only an effective communicator, but a confident one as well?
Getting confidence in communication is by actually speaking in front of people, and even when you're scared, you just got to face the music, or you might as well, you know, get it over with, because it's like a muscle, like anything else. You got to use it to get better at.
Just kind of like piggybacking off that idea that you were mentioning, like how communication is a muscle. I think that's like a constant theme that we see and that I've already expressed to them already. It's just like any other thing, like cutting hair, like hooping, literally like going to the gym. Like the more you do it, the better you'll become. And that's really all it is. And I guess that's like my main point with all of this shit, is to like let people know that. Then you also mentioned, like, I guess overcoming your fear, right? And not being afraid of mistakes. I think that's just key in like business overall as well, because you're gonna take L's in business. You're gonna fail. Yeah, you might as well get it over with, and you might as well just, you know, take your L's as W's and learn from them. You know, like that's all it is really. Like a L is just like a learning experience for you to grow and like keep going, you know.
And that's one way you gain confidence, is by failing, because once you fail, you kind of don't see it as a loss. You just see it as repetition and growth, you know.
For my third question I wanted to ask you is, within barbering, what are some easy ways to communicate better with clients and build trust?
A couple ways that you could communicate better with clients is just by the simple one. Ask them a personal question about them and listen. Like, just listen, let them talk until they're actually done talking, you know. And that's the only time they get to express themselves, and the only time that maybe somebody has listened to them that day, that week, that month, you know, their whole life. So if you listen, it might mean something to somebody, you know.
Like respond to what you just said. And we were like talking about it yesterday, the importance of listening. Mm-hmm. That's, you know, 50% of communication is listening. Mm-hmm. Just as important it is to speak up and talk to a crowd or educate a crowd, whatever it may be. Listening is also a part of communication, and that's also just a big thing that I would like to express to you guys. And you know, that's a gem in itself, like being able to listen, because I feel like a lot of people, especially now, you know, like our attention spans are so small that like motherfuckers can't pay attention to you no more. And especially within our industry, being that person who can listen to a client goes such a long way. You're listening to them and you're giving them a chance to express their problems, express what they're going through, because some people might, like you said, they might not have another person to do that, and you might be that person for them.
And we are. Another way I like to build trust and communicate with my clients is by joking around. A lot of people around me know that I put it all out in front of you. I'm gonna be annoying with some jokes sometimes. And the same thing with my clients. I would joke around with them, throw a little jab just to read their reaction. And that's one way that I gain trust with some of these guys, because they'll throw a jab back, you know, and stuff like that. So I think that's one way that I think it's unique to me. and to specific people that you just joke around and stuff like that.
For my last question, what advice would you give to younger barbers who struggle with speaking up, networking, or selling themselves?
One piece of advice that I have for a young barber is to be consistent. Being consistent and having discipline early on in your career when you're young is one of the best things, and I wish that's one thing that I took serious early on in my career, because while you're disciplined and consistent, it doesn't matter how you feel, it doesn't matter, as long as you're consistent and you show up, a lot of things will just work out for themselves. And that's one thing that I learned in this game, being in here for a while. And I've seen it for myself, where that formula of consistency and discipline just works for a beginner just to get busy in the chair. And if you have a hard time in networking, just rub shoulders with one person in the industry first, and then that person will guide you, or you'll stumble upon other people in the industry just with that one person. Go to events, go show face with these people and shake their hand. And if they see you in enough shows, they're going to know this guy's a barber and he's in the industry as well. So if you start doing that early enough, it'll pay off in the long run later on in your career.
Again, just responding to what you said, the whole, showing up, being consistent, and being disciplined, that just translates to everything in life. If you want to be successful, you have to show up, you have to be consistent in what you're doing, and you have to be disciplined. Like, that's the formula for everything in life. But yeah, I guess an easy way that you kind of brought up for younger barbers is like going to events like the trade shows and shit. Like, that is such an easy way to rub shoulders with all these guys in the industry. And I also wish that when I was younger, and like when I was 18, that I realized how valuable that would be for me, because I didn't do that. And I feel like now that I'm doing this on social media and trying to be a better communicator, that's definitely a goal for me. Yeah, bro, just go out there and show face, literally. Shake hands, show face. If they fuck with you, they fuck with you, and if they don't, they don't, you never know where that one handshake can go as well in the future. So an example of that could be like how we got to know each other.
Barber-client
relationship. Tell them that story.
I remember you booked an appointment. I cut your hair. I asked you a couple questions about yourself. You said something about basketball and school. You were in high school. And then I remember I opened up a shop. You booked an appointment, and I think you showed up to the old shop. And I remember you showed up 25 minutes late. I was irked. I did a haircut. You came back weeks later for another haircut and stuff. And then I think I needed barbers, and I was like, yo, gang. And then you brought up that you kind of were cutting hair a little bit, or dabbling into barbering in your free time. So I was like, bro, if I need a barber to work a chair, I got a station for you. If you want it, it's yours. And yeah, bro. And I feel like I've seen you grow. And then one part I think you became self-aware of is the communication is very important. And I think it's a good thing to be self-aware, and nobody else had to tell you, you became self-aware about that yourself.
Like, it's actually crazy how just like you cutting my hair and us having like those conversations led to like me continuing to work for you, grow, and be where I am now. This is a big part of why I am me. So that wouldn't have happened. Like, and don't know what the fuck I'd be doing right now if it wasn't for, me booking with you on books, or just asking questions. Yeah, or just talking, because I could have been quiet the whole time. I could have been on my phone.
Or I could have just squeezed you out.
Yeah, drive by my shit.
I think intention is another one that I'm becoming self-aware, just in cutting hair or in life. When you cut hair with intention, the haircut looks good. And if you do things with intention, like when you would ask me stuff while I'm cutting your hair, and you would ask me about barbering or stuff like that, you didn't have to ask me that, or I didn't have to continue the conversation. I could have just like, yo, here's your haircut, give me the money, get out, And that's why I do feel like communication and just talking to the client or anybody, the person upstairs complaining about the music being loud, learning how to communicate. That was an experience for myself, learning how to communicate when issues come up. You can't run from them, you got to face them. For myself, communicating during the times that you don't want to face those issues, it's very important to learn and to just face it, because you do feel better after communicating the topic that's kind of hard to talk about. And most of the time, the problem that you thought was a big one usually was just big because you were avoiding the conversation. But once you have the conversation, you realize that it was such a tiny problem. And so that's one way that confirmed to me how important communication was, not only in my personal life, but as a owner of a shop, as a leader to barbers, and barbers that look up to you, and you need to have a certain standard.
I feel like what you were just saying, speaking up even when you don't want to, and it being like all in your head, kind of like, oh, this shit is like we make it bigger than it is, and it's all in our head, and we avoid communicating. And I feel that like in school, especially like my past 3 years, like I would always like not raise my hand or not participate or not give my input and my knowledge because I was always like afraid of something, like being judged or like, oh, like fuck, like all these other people are so much smarter than me, like, and I always struggle with that in college, but now I'm realizing like, man, it's a free the shit don't even, like, a lot of these motherfuckers are on their phone or, yeah, bro. You just gotta be genuine, dude, to be honest. And if you aren't like the smartest person in the room, or you're not like the most confident person, bro, just be yourself and try your best. Yeah.
Showing up and just like you said, showing up and just doing it, is half the answer to or getting booked as a barber, to communicating with your clients, or using communication as a tool, to get clients. I've seen barbers, that I tell them, hey, just ask your client a personal question and do it, keep doing it to different people, and you're going to get clients in your chair just because of the conversation,
And not only like get them in the chair, but keep them and retain them as a client because you gave them that experience that they've never had before. Because they can get a crispy haircut anywhere, at this point. Everyone's crispy now. So what's going to set you apart? Being you and that experience that you give them with the conversation that they have, they're going to always remember. They're not going to remember the haircut per se. It has to be to a certain standard, but they're going to remember how they felt, walking out of the shop. Like, that's the whole thing with this shit. So for young barbers out there, like, you really need to, yes, try your best on the haircut, get them right and do all that, but you also need to start talking. It's really that simple.
One good example that I think just communication 101 is when somebody walks into the shop and the door and just being like, hey, you have an appointment. That is something that I feel like translates really well to just like to anybody in the shop. That's one way to practice. The easiest way, you don't even have to you just have to say, hey, who you waiting on? Or hey, how's it going? And that's the easiest, most by default way to communicate. And it's overlooked, I think, and it works.
That definitely is overlooked because, like, clients remember that. Like what I'm saying, like the experience you give them in the chair is one thing, but that question is an experience for them when they walk into the shop. And people don't really realize that, so acknowledging, you're acknowledging the person, especially when you're coming into a business or especially in a barbershop. Like, there's a whole bunch of noise in this bitch when you walk in. There's people talking, there's music loud and all this shit. So to feel that like acknowledgement, that shows that we care for them. Well, that was a great conversation. Thank you for giving me the time of day and dropping some gems for us. Where can the people find you, and where can they book with you, and what do you got in the works?
You could find me on Instagram at dontwowwy, and you could book an appointment with me for a haircut on there. Click on the book now button. Just working on growing behind the chair and as a leader and as a business owner.
Thank you.
Yep, anytime.